The family's financial matters had always been a contentious issue in their household. While the husband, earning $250,000, dutifully sent money to his mother, his wife was left to single-handedly manage the household on funds for their child. When she sought his assistance, he casually remarked, "Borrow from your father, if you can't afford necessities for our child." "I will," she replied with a serene smile. That evening, he was met with a surprise. Movers were emptying their apartment. "Hello, dear listeners. I'm delighted to welcome you to my channel. I have a new, captivating story for you. Please enjoy." Xenia lifted the edge of the curtain and glanced into the courtyard. Her husband's car was already parked outside. He would be home soon. Releasing the fabric, she walked into the kitchen, where buckwheat was simmering in a pot. She stirred it mechanically. A pan on the stove held chicken breast, tough and inexpensive. But it was something. They had run out of milk yesterday and cottage cheese, too. Tomorrow, Myron would have to have water-based porridge for breakfast again. He was 4 years old. A growing body requires protein, calcium, and vitamins. The pediatrician at the clinic repeated this like a mantra every visit. Xenia opened the refrigerator. It was nearly empty. 3 eggs, a block of butter, a little cheese. Her payday was still a week away. Her account held only 2,000 rubles. That would cover bread, pasta, and some vegetables if they were frugal. She closed the door and leaned her forehead against its cool surface. 7 years ago, she married Artyom Ladygin, a handsome, confident programmer with a good salary. He had promised her security, stability, and a family. The first 2 years were smooth sailing. They rented an apartment together, saved for a down payment on a mortgage, and vacationed by the sea. Then Miron was born, and things began to shift. Artyom started visiting his mother more frequently. Lyudmila Fyodorovna, a 57-year-old woman with a perpetual frown and eyes that held constant displeasure, lived alone in a 2-bedroom apartment on the outskirts. After her divorce, she was left with a modest pension and a mountain of grievances. Her son was her sole source of joy. "Mom isn't feeling well," Artyom would say, preparing for yet another visit. Again, a weary Xenia would rock their crying infant. "Artyom, perhaps you should call a doctor for her." "She doesn't need a doctor, she needs attention." That attention soon transformed into financial support. Initially, Artyom began buying his mother groceries, citing her pension was insufficient. Then he started paying her utility bills, followed by medication, clothing, phone repairs, and a new television. "Artyom, we're barely making ends meet ourselves," Xenia ventured cautiously when Myron turned 1. "We're running out of diapers and formula, and you're buying Mom a 40,000 ruble television." "She's my mother," he stated curtly. "She raised me alone. Do you understand? Alone. I owe her." Xenia fell silent. Arguing was futile. Lyudmila Fyodorovna could skillfully induce guilt in her son with surgical precision. Every call began with a sigh. Each sentence contained an insinuation about her difficult life, her suffering, and how unappreciated she was. When Myron was 2, Xenia returned to work, securing a remote content manager position that paid 35,000 rubles a month. It wasn't much, but it was something. Artyom earned 250,000 rubles. By their city's standards, that was quite substantial. One would assume a family of 3 could live comfortably, but money seemed to slip through their fingers. Xenia meticulously tracked their expenses. Rent, 40,000, utilities, 5,000, groceries, 20,000 if they were extremely careful. Clothing for a growing child, medicine, household supplies, transportation, another 15,000. That totaled around 80,000 rubles for the bare essentials. 170,000 remained. Where did it all go? The answer was simple. Lyudmila Fyodorovna. Artyom transferred money to his mother every month. First it was 20,000, then 30, then 50. His mother always had a reason. The roof leaked, she needed dental work, or a friend was ill and needed assistance. Artyom never refused. "It's temporary," he'd tell Xenia when she tried to discuss finances. until she gets back on her feet. But Lyudmila Fyodorovna had no intention of getting back on her feet. Why bother when she had a son to provide for her? The last 6 months had become unbearable. Artyom was sending his mother up to 150,000 rubles monthly. The remaining funds were disastrously insufficient for the family. Ksenia stopped buying new clothes for herself, making do with her old ones. She bought Miron's clothes at sales or received them from friends. She opted for the cheapest groceries, forgoing fruits, meat, and fish. "Artyom, we need to talk," she said a month ago as he was preparing to make another transfer to his mother. "About what?" "About money. We can't live like this. We don't have enough for food, do you understand? Miron needs to eat properly. He's 4 years old." Artyom looked up at her with tired eyes. "Kshusha, I work, I earn. What more do you want? I want that money to stay within our family, not go to your mother." His face hardened. "My mother needs help, and your son doesn't." Ksenia's voice trembled. "He needs milk, cottage cheese, meat. I can't buy him proper food because we have no money." "Don't exaggerate, we have enough." "Enough? I have 3,000 rubles left until payday." 3,000? Artyom, where is your salary?" "The 35,000 I spend on our child and groceries, which you don't deem important to buy." He stood up and grabbed his phone. "I'm not listening to this. My mother is sacred to me." The door slammed shut. Ksenia was left alone in the kitchen, clutching an empty mug. Miron was playing in the next room, building something with old blocks. After that conversation, Artyom became even more distant. He came home late and remained silent, spending his weekends at his mother's. Lyudmila Fyodorovna called him 3 times a day, complaining about her health, her neighbors, or the weather. He listened for hours, and Ksenia's requests were met with monosyllabic responses. 3 days ago, a turning point occurred. Ksenia was with Miron at the pediatric clinic for a routine checkup. The pediatrician, an elderly woman with a weary face, examined the boy and frowned. "He's pale and lethargic. What are you feeding him?" "As best I can," Ksenia answered truthfully. "Porridge, pasta, sometimes chicken, dairy, rarely fruit. We don't always have enough money." The doctor looked at her intently. "The child is 4 years old. He's growing. He needs a balanced diet. Milk, cottage cheese, meat, fish, vegetables, fruits. Otherwise, problems will arise. Anemia, developmental delays, a weak immune system. Do you understand?" Ksenia nodded, her lips pressed together. Tears welled up in her eyes. That evening, she tried to talk to Artyom again. He was sitting on the sofa, engrossed in his phone. "We were at the doctor's today. The doctor said Miron isn't looking well and needs to eat properly." Artyom didn't look up. "I don't have anything to feed him," Ksenia's voice broke. "I have no money, do you understand? I've been economizing on everything this month just to feed him, and you don't care." Artyom finally tore himself away from the screen and looked at her coldly. "Borrow from your father if you can't afford necessities for our child," he said indifferently. "He has plenty of money." Ksenia froze. A ringing filled her ears. "What did you hear? Your father makes good money. Ask him. I spend my money on my mother anyway." "On my mother," he confirmed, "who gave birth to me and raised me. Your father can help his grandson." "But you are Miron's father," she said disbelievingly. "That's your responsibility." "My responsibility is to earn. I earn. How you spend the money is your business." Ksenia stood in the middle of the room, feeling something inside her finally shatter. He looked at her calmly, without a hint of sympathy. His mother received 150,000 rubles a month for her whims, while his own son ate scraps. "I'll borrow," she said quietly and smiled. Artyom nodded and returned to his phone. Ksenia went into the bedroom, closed the door, and took out her phone. Her hands trembled. She opened her father's contact and sent a message. "Dad, can I come over? Need to talk urgently." The reply came a minute later. "Of course, my dear, tomorrow morning. I'll be waiting." Ksenia's father, Grigory Lvovich Politov lived alone in a spacious 3-bedroom apartment in the city center. After his wife's death 5 years ago, he had withdrawn but gradually recovered. He worked as a chief engineer at a large factory. He earned well and spent little. Ksenia was his only daughter, and he loved her with that quiet, strong love that needed no words. When she arrived, he met her at the door, tall, gray-haired, with kind gray eyes. "Hello, Kshusha, come in." She entered, took off her coat. Miran was with a neighbor. The conversation would be serious. "Tea?" "No, Dad, I need to talk to you." They sat at the kitchen table. Grigory Lvovich waited in silence. Ksenia recounted everything about the money Artyom sent to his mother, the lack of funds for their child, her husband's indifference, and the phrase he'd uttered the previous evening. Her voice trembled, but she held herself together. Her father listened without interruption. When she finished, he remained silent for a long time, gazing out the window. "What do you intend to do?" he finally asked. "Leave him," Ksenia replied firmly. "I can't do it anymore, but I have nowhere to go. I don't have money for rent or to move. I was thinking maybe Miran and I could stay with you for a while until I get back on my feet. I'll find a better job, save up, and rent my own place." Grigory Lvovich nodded. "Of course. Stay as long as you need. I have plenty of space. There's always a room for my grandson." Ksenia exhaled, the lump in her throat lessening. "Thank you, Dad. But," he continued, "you can't just leave. We need to do this properly." "How?" he mused. "He doesn't appreciate you. He thinks you depend on him. We need to show him that's not the case. He needs a sharp lesson." "What do you mean?" "Pack your things. Tomorrow afternoon I'll send movers and we'll take everything while he's at work. In the evening, when he returns, let him see an empty apartment and me." Ksenia shivered. "And if he—" "What if he," her father interjected sternly, "hits me, tries something? I've dealt with men like him my whole life, a spoiled boy. It's time he faced the truth." Ksenia looked at him, feeling something long forgotten awaken within her. Determination. All these years she had remained silent, endured, hoping Artyom would change, but he hadn't. He simply took and took, giving nothing in return. "All right," she said, "we'll do it." The next day, after Artyom left for work, Ksenia began packing. Her father sent 2 movers with a truck. They efficiently and carefully packed everything that belonged to her and Miran: clothes, toys, the baby crib, her personal belongings. The furniture belonged to Artyom. She didn't touch his things, only her own. Miran bustled around, not understanding what was happening. "Mom, are we moving?" "Yes, sweetie, we're going to live with Grandpa now, and Dad will stay here." The boy frowned but didn't ask further questions. He was a bright child and sensed something was wrong. By evening, the apartment was empty. Ksenia walked through the rooms. Everything looked alien, cold. She felt no regret, only relief. The movers took the last boxes. Ksenia and Miran went to her father's, settled her son in his new room, and had dinner. The boy was tired and fell asleep quickly. "I'll go back," she told her father. "I want to be there when he arrives." "I'm going with you." "Dad, no need. There might be a scene." "Precisely why I'm going with you," Grigory Lvovich said firmly. "Don't argue." They arrived back at 8 in the evening. Ksenia took out her keys and unlocked the door. The apartment greeted them with emptiness and silence. Her father entered a room, surveyed it, and nodded. "Everything is as it should be. Now we wait." They sat in the kitchen. Ksenia gazed at the bare walls, at the empty corners where children's toys had stood just yesterday. Artyom returned shortly after 8:30. Ksenia heard the front door downstairs slam, the elevator rumble. Her heart pounded. The key turned in the lock. The door opened. Artyom entered carrying a bag of groceries. He must have picked something up on the way. He walked into the hallway, hung up his jacket, and froze. The room was empty. What? He moved further in, peered into the bedroom, the nursery. Empty. Ksyuha's here," a voice answered from the kitchen. He burst in and saw her sitting at the table. Next to her, arms crossed, stood Grigory Lvovich. "What is going on here?" Artyom's voice cracked. "Where are the things? Where's Miron?" "Miron is with me," Ksenia replied calmly. "So are the things. I'm leaving." "Are you out of your mind, Ksenia?" Grigory Lvovich corrected, taking a step forward. "Watch your language." Artyom looked at him, then back at his wife. "You can't just up and leave." "I can, and I am. Because of what?" "Because of money. We discussed this. I told you to ask your father." "Precisely." Grigory Lvovich nodded. "She asked, and I gave. Now she and my grandson are taken care of, and you can continue supporting your mother. One less worry." Artyom turned pale. "I worked. I earned." "For Lyudmila Fyodorovna." Grigory Lvovich cut in. 150,000 rubles a month for her whims, and your own son eats scraps. You're not a man, you're a mama's boy, and my daughter will no longer live with one. Artyom stood, mouth agape. His eyes conveyed utter bewilderment. He genuinely couldn't comprehend what had happened. For him, it was normal to provide for his mother, and his wife should figure things out herself. "The keys." Ksenia extended her hand. "What?" "The apartment keys." She took out the ring and placed it on the table. "Let's go, Dad." They stood and headed for the exit. "Ksyuha, wait!" Artyom shouted. "You'll regret this. You'll crawl back on your knees." She turned back at the threshold. "No," she said calmly, "I won't." And she closed the door. The first week was difficult. Artyom called and texted. Initially angry, then pleading. He accused her of selfishness, of destroying the family, of Miron needing a father. Ksenia didn't reply. Then Lyudmila Fyodorovna started calling. Her voice on the phone dripped with venom. "You've separated me from my son. You've ruined his life. He's alone now, miserable, and you're happy." Ksenia silently hung up and blocked the number. Grigory Lvovich helped his daughter find a new job. Through acquaintances, he secured her a position at a reputable company with a salary of 60,000 rubles. The three of them lived in his apartment, and the old man was happy. Myron flourished. Proper food, a calm environment, and a grandfather who read him fairy tales every evening. 2 months later, a summons arrived. Artyom had filed for divorce and demanded a division of property. Ksenia didn't resist. There was nothing to divide. The apartment was rented. The furniture was his. She wanted nothing. The alimony was set at the standard 25% of his income, 625,000 rubles per month. Artyom turned pale when he heard the amount. "That's too much," he declared to the judge. "I have a mother who needs assistance." The judge, an elderly woman with glasses, looked at him coldly. "You have a minor son. He takes priority. The court's decision is final." Ksenia left the courtroom feeling a strange sense of peace. She wasn't rejoicing. She simply knew. Everything was as it should be. Artyom tried to meet her after the hearing. He intercepted her by the exit. "Ksyuk, let's talk. Maybe we can fix things." She looked at him, pale, lost, pathetic. "No," she said. "We're simply finished. Live as you wish. You'll see Miron on schedule." He tried to object, but she walked past. Time passed. 8 months. Ksenia was walking Miron home from kindergarten. The boy swiveled his head, looking at the shop windows, chattering about a new friend from his group. Recently, his father had given him a bicycle, and now the boy dreamed of riding it in the park. "Mom, are we going to see Grandpa at the factory tomorrow?" he asked. "He promised to show me the machines." "We will," Ksenia smiled. "Absolutely." They turned the corner, and Ksenia stopped. Sitting on a bench near a shop was an elderly woman in a worn coat, Lyudmila Fyodorovna. She sat hunched over, gazing at the asphalt. A walking stick stood beside her. Her face was gaunt, her eyes sunken. Her former mother-in-law looked up, and their eyes met. In Lyudmila Fyodorovna's eyes, something flickered. malice, envy, powerlessness. Ksenia walked past without stopping. Miron didn't even flinch. At home, Grigory Lvovich greeted them, an apron tied around his waist. "How were my travelers?" "Great, Grandpa," Miron ran to him. Ksenia took off her coat and went into the kitchen. Something was bubbling on the stove, potatoes with meat. A salad sat on the table. Her father handed her a mug of tea. She took it, cupped her hands around the warm ceramic, and looked out the window. Outside, it was darkening. Streetlights glowed. "Do you think I did the right thing?" she asked quietly. Grigory Lvovich looked at her, then at his grandson playing in the next room, then back at his daughter. "What do you think yourself?" Ksenia finished her tea and placed the mug on the table. "The right thing," she said. "I did the right thing." Her father nodded and returned to the stove, and Ksenia, for the first time in many years, breathed freely.